Welcome back to Tales of Movie Reviews, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're talking about the latest action villain hero? Which, I don't know. Let's just dive into Venom. So I really was not anticipating on watching Venom. When I first saw the trailer, I was thinking, I remember in Spider-Man 3, which was a pretty bad movie, that the symbiote doesn't really talk. And even though Spider-Man 3 was a pretty bad movie, laughably bad, in fact, you can watch it and kind of enjoy it, the idea of the symbiote was interesting, that it kind of brought out your worst side, which, in all regards to Spider-Man 3, it brought out Peter's worst side. Tobey Maguire's worst side, in fact. But I just thought the idea of like a substance that somehow makes you into a worser version of yourself was somewhat interesting in regards to all the other Spider-Man villains I've seen. That was a bit more insightful. It's just a shame because the backstory of the villain is it fell from outer space. That's it. It just happened to fall right next to Spider-Man. So when I saw the trailer for the new Venom, I was a little bit skeptical because I was like, well, why would Venom look the way he does if in this universe Spider-Man doesn't really exist? It doesn't really line up with MCU canon. So why would it look the way it does? Where does it come from? Why does it happen to land here? But, given the fact that Spider-Man didn't exist in the Venom film, I think that actually made a bit more sense because they can write it off as just, it's an alien. It's just an external life force. And I will say overall for the film, I liked it a little bit more than I thought I would, but I'm not admitting that it's a good film. There are still plenty of problems with it, and I don't even think it quite got to the point of being enjoyable to me, but there were scenes and moments in the film that I liked. So what I did appreciate was Tom Hardy. He's one of the favorite actors of mine. I love him in Mad Max. I love him in Dark Knight Rises. I love him in Inception. Tom Hardy typically does roles that I appreciate and I enjoy watching, and this was no exception. There's a lot of scenes where you can easily tell when Tom Hardy is not in control of his own body, and I think Tom Hardy as an actor did a good job with that. I also thought he brought a pretty realistic, lifelike representation of Eddie Brock. He felt like a real character, whereas Venom, Eddie Brock in Spider-Man 3 felt weird, felt like comedy slash villain slash bully, but I don't know. I feel like everyone in that film was just a very wimpy, whereas Tom Hardy just looks like a cool guy. He's just an intimidating, strong, and like witty personality that I can really kind of relate to in a lot of ways, and I think that he played a much better Eddie Brock than whoever it was who played it in Spider-Man 3. And what this film did right, I think, was learning how these two communicate. So I started to understand why they gave the symbiote a voice. See, I thought it would have been much better originally if the symbiote didn't have a voice and was more of just a trait of you, a side of you that woke up when the symbiote, merged with your body. But seeing it in the film, I can now see why they made the symbiote sentient and it can actually talk to you and it actually speaks to you even though it's sharing your body. I get why they did that now because for the sake of the film, it makes way more sense and there's way more chemistry between, Venom and Eddie Brock and their interchanges. And I think actually that ended up being some of my favorite parts of the movie was the dialogue scenes between them. That Venom, he's in control, he can do whatever he wants, and Eddie Brock just trying to work with him in the best way they can. It's not like he gives Eddie no control. Eddie does get to decide when Venom comes out and gets him where he needs to go, which I thought was interesting. Just kind of this like, it's one character, but it's actually two. It's almost like a Bruce Banner Hulk mentality, like in Avengers when Bruce Banner's trying to bring the Hulk out, but Hulk kind of has a different mindset than Bruce. They're the same, but in another way, they're different. Now, I think the weakest part of this movie is the plot. The villain felt very generic. We need to kill humans for science, and it's for the greater good. And they basically turned him into Elon Musk, saying, there's a lot of fake news out there, and we need to go to space. But of course, there's more than meets the eye. This guy that everyone loves, he's actually terrible. And I just found it incredibly generic, especially near the end of the film when it becomes a fight of big CGI Venom versus even bigger, badder CGI Venom, and the evil Elon Musk CEO from Rogue One is inside bigger, badder Venom, and they have to fight each other. That part of the movie, I was completely lost lost. For one, the CG, I like could not even tell what was going on. And for two, I thought character motivations were completely thrown out the window, because real Venom is like, well, you know, we came here to stop humanity and I was here to destroy the planet, but then I met you, Eddie. And because I merged with your body, I realized that you're a loser like I am. But imagine everything I'm saying right now, but in like a demonic voice. I was gonna destroy the planet with my species, but then I met you, Eddie, and realized I like you and I want to wipe out the human race. It made me laugh out loud in several instances where I felt like it wasn't supposed to make me laugh. So similar to Spider-Man 3, you can say there were some moments that were unintentionally laughable, but wouldn't quite say that is the trademark of a good film, is when I'm laughing at it and not with it. See, with most Marvel films, I'm typically laughing with it. This film, there were several scenes where I'm like, why is he saying stuff like that? You know, Eddie Brock doesn't want to jump out of a building, so he's like, you're a pussy. That's weird. You're a loser. And it's just a lot of weird scenes like that. Talking to his love interest and saying, I like her. We date her. She's cute. Just some kind of stupid dialogue sometimes, and the voice got very campy. I also don't dig that Venom is always smiling. It felt incredibly out of place that during the end battle, both the protagonist monster and the antagonist monster are smiling the whole time. You're not going to get away with this. I'm going to stop you. I'm Venom. It got campy very quickly. Even though there's a lot of scenes that I thought were handled fairly seriously, I think my favorite parts of the movie have to be the action sequences where Tom Hardy is first learning that Venom can help him when he needs to. So the motorcycle chase scene, Eddie's trying to surrender himself to the police or whatever, but Venom is reaching out of his body and stopping them from shooting, and he blocks bullets. There's a lot of really cool moments when they're first learning to work together. And this movie kind of, spoiler alert a little bit, but this movie's been out for a while, so I don't know why you care. But the movie kind of ends with you finding out that Venom didn't actually die, but the bad version of Venom did die. He's gone, and now Eddie Brock and Venom are one, and they get to use their powers for good. And I kind of wanted to see where that goes. I wanted to see the everyday mundane tasks of Eddie Brock with Venom inside his body. I think that could have been very interesting, and we got a little bit of that in this movie, but they got very much too distracted with the world's gonna end plot point where Elon Musk wants to kill more people and we have to stop him, and then this bad version of Venom is going to take control of him, and then we have to stop the rocket and it's going to explode. They had to end the movie with a big bang. So I wish the movie wouldn't have gone complete blockbuster and maybe went a little more towards the Sam Raimi side and said, let's just see the everyday usage of Eddie Brock and Venom. And it makes me kind of interested to see if they ever plan on making more of these movies. I think they easily could. I think they could take off where they ended this one. So I will say that going into the film, I was completely expecting to hate it and not really enjoy any of it, but after watching it, I was like, you know what? There was some good moments there. There were some good parts. It's a good movie to have on in the background, because I do appreciate that in this film they kind of used Venom sparingly. Like in the trailers and the ads, you see this big monster guy always talking, we're gonna eat your face off and I'm gonna eat your arms and your legs and you'll look like a turd on the street. There's a lot of weird dialogue like that and stuff, but I actually preferred it when Venom didn't show up, and the fact that they didn't have him appear that much in the movie, because it kind of made it a special occasion, so that when Venom did fully come out of Eddie Brock, it was a serious moment, and that did not happen often. So they knew what they had that was interesting, that the monster was kind of creative. Even though I don't really dig the smile near the end of the movie, you know, I guess it probably wouldn't look that great either if Venom, you know, you imagine Venom with the big tongue and all the teeth. Imagine him like with a concerned face. Like, oh no, it's gonna destroy the planet. So I guess they had to keep the smile for consistency, but I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of the character in general, but I will say Tom Hardy being an executive producer, maybe that helped a little bit. Kind of kept this movie interesting. I was somewhat interested. I watched this fairly late at night as well, and yet it was able to hold my attention way more than I thought it would. So for a Sony film, honestly, not that bad. I would rate this like maybe a 6 or a 5 out of 10. Obviously not a great film. There weren't a lot of super good moments and great character-driven stuff, but some clever dialogue, some interesting acting, and overall somewhat enjoyable. I would say give it a watch on Netflix if you can find it, or Prime Video or something when it comes out. Do you need to see it in the theaters? Not really. Luckily, we went on a tightwad day where everything was more affordable, so it only cost us $5 to go and see it, but yeah. It was fine. Pretty good. A lot of stupid moments, but also a lot of interesting moments. So those are my thoughts on Venom. Let me know what you guys thought of it, if you did watch it, down in the comments below. This has been Taylor's Movie Reviews, and thank you guys for your time, and I hope you all have an excellent day. Take care.